Aloha y'all, Daniel Aaron here, your guide to vibrant living, and here we go deeper into the juicy topic of gurus and teachers, which is our theme right now. And I was teaching a yoga asana class this morning, the physical yoga practice, and I was doing one of the things that I know to be important as a teacher to help the students, which is to challenge them, to stretch them, to inspire them and encourage them to go beyond what they normally believe they can do. And there was a moment, could have been my imagination, though I've been here thousands of times before, where in the midst of that, the energetic from the students was, right? Now, have you ever been in the student role and had a teacher encourage you, tell you to do something that was hard, that was pushing you, that brought up inside you resistance, maybe even anger? I know, I have lots of times in the student role as well. And as I mentioned in a previous video, one of the things the guru does, and so just a quick redefinition, guru is teacher, could be, or remover of darkness, guru, remover of goo, right? One who shows us, when we're the student or the disciple, our light, our truth, a greater potential of who we are. So I know for me, having been in the role of student, there are times when I'm challenged, and as mentioned on the previous video, sometimes what the guru is really is just a projector screen for us as the student, the disciple, to project our stuff onto. Right? Positive or negative. They are reflecting back to us who we are, and hopefully doing it with love and acceptance. Now, in the moment when we are being challenged to expand beyond what we normally are, it's really natural for part of us to go, "Oh, I don't like this," and whose fault is it? It's your fault, right? It's the guru's fault. It's the teacher's fault. And so we project our anger or frustration on that person. So for me in class this morning, I was feeling this dislike, kind of like this negative energy coming from the students. Now, luckily, I've experienced that many times before. I don't particularly like it, of course. It doesn't feel good to receive any negativity, at least, not for most of us. At the same time, though, I take it as, in a way, an honor, because there's trust, because even though that was happening, they were staying in it, and 97.32% of the time later on I hear thank you, right? And I appreciate that, and that was a breakthrough moment for me. So I reflected on an experience I had, and I'll just give you this brief one for now. Going back to the year 2002, I think it was the very first time I connected with one of my teachers, one of my gurus, a man named Paul Lowe. Amazing, amazing being. And I'd gone to Harbin Hot Springs in California way back in the day before they had the big fires and all that. And a friend of mine had been before, and he said, this guy's really amazing. I'd already been a seeker disciple for many years, so I wasn't a stranger to this kind of environment. He didn't call himself a guru, by the way, Paul. He didn't call himself enlightened, by the way. Other people called himself those things. He called himself, evocative entertainer or teacher, something like that. And his way of working was different. Everybody's way of working is somewhat different. What he would do is sit in the front of the room, yes, up on a pedestal, literally, and that's just practical. Also, you can see everybody and people can see you. And most of what we did with him is we would sit in a big semicircle, a bunch of us, and at that very first group there were 150 of us, and sometimes we would do exercises like, for instance, this wasn't the first time, but just for fun, you'll appreciate this, I'm sure. One of the first exercises we did in a group with him, on a different time I was with him later, a subsequent one, is he said, okay, and this was at the beginning of a group, okay, what we're going to do now is everybody stand up. So everybody stood up. He said, so in a moment, what you're going to do is take off all your clothes and then walk around and meet someone and share with them what your first impressions are of them. How does that land for you? Well, I can tell you this. By this point in my life, when I had received that instruction, I had overcome a lot of my, I don't even know if I want to say my body image issues, because I still had some of those, plaguing me, though I had gotten comfortable with being naked in public. When I was a young man, I'd gone to Martha's Vineyard and been to nude beaches, and at first was really uncomfortable for me. So I could take my clothes off, though going up to people and sharing my first impressions, of course, with the caveat, with the expectation, with the understanding and agreement that we're going to be honest with each other. That was one thing, really uncomfortable. Second thing, receiving theirs. Holy moly, that was pretty uncomfortable as well. Nonetheless, that's what we did. However, and that's not what I came to tell you about just now. That's another time. So the way Paul worked is he would sometimes lead exercises. More often than not, though, he would sit at the front and somebody would ask a question. And he had a fascinating way of working. Somebody would ask a question, and yes, there would be information. What about this? And I have this challenge, and I'm thinking about this, and this is a difficulty for me. And he would take in the information and give a response that related to that, though it was much more on an energetic vibrational level, right? He would receive it, and then what he would bring back was this might sound weird, but like energy medicine, and it was powerful. And so early in that group, I was quite nervous my first time there, so I knew it was important for me to raise my hand and speak up in the group in some way, and I did that, and it went okay. No lightning struck me. A couple days later, I did that again, and then Paul gave me some feedback. And I spoke briefly about this in a previous video called Ferocious Feedback, which you may be interested in. I'll put the link in the description down below. And what he said to me was, "Your face is frozen." I was like, huh? What do you mean? And he said, well, when you're speaking, you keep your face locked so as that you don't share with others what's going on inside you, your thoughts or your feelings. I had no idea that that was the case. I wasn't necessarily believing him when he said that, but at the same time, I couldn't really argue or know. He went on and said a bit more about it, and then I got really uncomfortable because I thought, right, my reaction was, oh no, there's something wrong with me. And this is part of the cycle that often goes on for us when we are with a guru. And as mentioned previously, sometimes what the guru's job is, the guru's job is always in some way to lift us up to our higher potential. And sometimes to do that, they help us see what pattern is holding us back or holding us down. And when we become aware of that pattern, right, whether it's an attitude, a belief, or a behavior, it's usually uncomfortable. We feel like, oh no, I've screwed up, something's wrong with me. And so in that moment, that's exactly what I felt, which by the way is very much like in a yoga asana class when we are feeling uncomfortable, some level of difficulty or pain, and we blame it on the teacher. That's the same kind of dynamic. Are you with me? All right, so he finished giving me his feedback and the attention shifted and someone else in the room shared their thing, but I was not so present with that because I was consumed with my face. Like, what's wrong with me? What's going on with my face? I don't know. And as soon as we finished as a group that day, I booked out of there because I was so embarrassed. I was like, my face, I don't know how to work it. It doesn't work. And I spent that night really in kind of an agony, feeling like, I don't know, this is frustrating me. I don't know what he means, but I'm kind of feeling, because I was feeling frustrated, which is, by the way, a sign that there's some truth in the feedback. I was feeling that, and I didn't want to see anybody or talk to anybody because they were all looking at my face, or so I thought, right? That was my perspective. And I stayed like that for a good I don't know, 14 hours or something, and just really struggling with it. And then something clicked. And it's kind of like this sometimes, where we just stay in the difficulty and the pain till eventually something breaks loose. And here's the best analogy I can give you for that, which to me is pure gold, and then I'll wrap this up for us. If you've ever seen, there's some great YouTube videos. I'll put a link to this down there below too, also, where there's sand or metal filings on a plate, and a specific frequency or vibration is put into that plate, and so it's shaking, right? And all the filings or the sand on there moves around until it comes to form a pattern, right? And that is the pattern of that vibration. So then, and check this out, really cool, you increase, the scientists will increase the frequency, the vibration of the plate, and what happens to the sand, the filings? They discombobulate, they get disturbed, the pattern that they were in, which was organized and symmetrical and beautiful, gets disrupted, and it goes into chaos, right? It goes into chaos, it's ugly, and it's all messed up, and you can't tell what's going on, and then it shifts into a new pattern, which is the new pattern aligned with that vibration, right? And it's more complex than the previous, it's more beautiful. Do it again, increase the vibration again, and again, chaos, disruption, until it reforms into a new pattern, which is more complex and more beautiful. Do you get it? This is exactly what happens for us when a guru, especially when we take it on, especially when it's delivered with love, gives us feedback, right? They give us feedback that there's some pattern we are holding on to that is not who we really are, right? We feel uncomfortable, right? That is a vibration here that conflicts with our vibration here. It brings us up on the way there. There is disruption, there is chaos. It's uncomfortable, right? So what happened for me is, after, I think it was about 14 hours, I remember, this was 20 something years ago, and I remember it really well, something clicked, and my face started moving. It was like I had Botox removed or something. I don't know. It was like then I started being able to, my face started expressing itself naturally. And in time, what I realized was, my old shyness or introversion or some kind of fear pattern that I'd learned as a kid because there was danger in my environment, like keep it inside, hold your cards close to your chest, don't show what's going on because that'll be safer. Somehow I had learned that pattern, and surely at one point it served me, or so I believed it did. When it released, my face became more naturally expressive, and people started commenting on it. Paul actually called me out on it the next day and said, "Hey, what's going on? I see that." And it was like, it was a breakthrough. And it was fascinating because I didn't understand it. I couldn't control it. I couldn't do anything with it consciously. All right, I leave it there. A little story, a little deeper into the realm of gurus. The one who removes the goo, the one who removes the darkness. And remember the spelling of guru? G, U-R-U. And what it all is, and what any life situation that's uncomfortable can be a guru, is a reminder to us of who we really are, right? Divine. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you live with vibrancy. Aloha.